So Jaan, you were actually at the Digital Summit already a few years ago, and we were sort of scanning the scene of AI then and what should be done perhaps in regulation-wise. So a few years have passed, so how do you look at the state of AI now? What has changed? What's going on currently? What's your stake in where is AI in the world? Eric gave his view, but what's yours?
Yeah, I think like one valuable thing that the last years have kind of taught us is that like how much of a moving target AI is. Like both the kind of like the big language models that Eric Schmidt mentioned here, as well as stable diffusion, which are just like really big things that are happening right now. Their core is based on the technique called transformers. That was invented in 2017.
Right.
The first paper came out in 2017. So the last 5 years have basically instrumental to the main things that are currently happening in AI. So like being kind of, so my kind of big worry in kind of circles like this is that people just like kind of forget how sort of unimpressive AI was 6 years ago, and also like completely underestimate how impressive it will become still.
So, but basically, I guess you're saying that the speed of this innovation is even accelerating. And so what do you see sort of going from there? I mean, is already some sort of milestones ahead that we can predictably forecast?
Yeah, so like I am an investor and supporter of a prediction market called Metaculus, so metaculus.com. And then they have community predictions about like various measurable AI timelines, or AI kind of milestones, and it looks really scary.
But I mean, what will be the contours of that? So, so basically, are we making the right assumptions about what AI will be in the next 5 years or so forth?
Yeah, I think like the assumptions is like kind of very good concept of word to keep in mind. Like one way of putting it like what's kind of strategically happening in the world, I think is that like top AI research groups, and by extension, humanity is basically doing two things. One is that they are really pushing forward the capabilities of AI, trying to make it as smart, as quickly as possible. And then, second thing, they're using the fact that AI is dumb to control it.
Okay.
So, like,
so
this cannot go on forever.
Machine. We are assuming a stupid machine for now.
Yep. And like a lot of people are just kind of like so have like so strongly ingrained assumption that machines will always be dumb. Like, I mean, for a long time, I mean, I've been in this AI alignment business for like 12 years now. Long time there was like this saying that, well, don't worry about machines. Like first of all, like we can always plug them out. We can plug them out of the wall. Just pull the plug. I mean, last year there was a fire in Strasbourg data center. They could not put it out because there was no way to turn off electricity in that data center. So like, people, have you tried pulling out the plug? It doesn't work. The other things that like people said that well, there'll always be like human creativity. Well, again, actually stable diffusion wasn't released like this week, but it was just a matter of weeks ago. The art community is just like in shock right now because there are every day millions of pictures being generated by AI that are flooding their competitions, they're flooding their forums, they're flooding their market that human brains cannot distinguish from human creations. I mean, they can, like now that we are starting to be able to distinguish them because they're just better.
But if I compare to, let's say, what Eric's message was before, then you're saying everything of that will come even faster, stronger, and worse in a way, right? I mean, so if a theme is trusted connectivity, what's your take on something like trusted AI? Can that be a thing at all, and should it be a thing?
I mean, first of all, I have like kind of like a semantic complaint because like the term trusted AI is more about description of the audience. It's a thing
right.
about like what people are doing. They're trusting AI.
Right.
The more important term is like for goal setting. I was part of the AI high-level expert group at the European Commission, and And like one of the first things we kind of like settled is like, no, we should like be talking about trustworthy AI, because like one big mistake that we might be making is kind of creating a trusted AI, and then like kind of placing that, having like misplaced trust in AI, and then in some ways trusted AI is more risky than AI that we have like kind of qualms about.
But trustworthy then, semantically speaking. So, but is that possible at all?
Oh yeah, I think it's possible. And I'm a physicist by training, so like one thing that I always kind of try to do is that kind of think about what are the asymptotes, like what are the kind of fundamental constraints that something that is kind of has to work in our physical universe. What are the things that it bumps into? And I currently don't see like any reason why it's not possible to have AI that is kind of fundamentally very good. Like so, like the community that are being supporting and helping to be kind of become into existence over the last decade is called the AI alignment community. And one way to describe AI alignment is that is trying to figure out how to make systems that are smart enough care about the future in ways that we should care if we were smarter. So it's like it's not like static target; it's a moving target. But it's there's no law of physics that says that it's impossible. So I definitely think it's possible.
But that's a very high ideal in a way, right? So I mean, but any other sort of, I don't know, features or characteristics of trustworthy that we should be paying attention to, even in the sort of immediate term.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, one sort of bad news is that a lot of the work that is being kind of done, which I think is important work, don't get me wrong, that is done about the current generation of AIs, it's not going to be very helpful. About
you mean done in labs and companies and in development?
Yeah, when it comes to sort of making them more trustworthy, right?
Okay.
Because like the big problem, or not, as Eric mentioned, big problem with current crop of AIs is that the ways they fail is because they are dumb. They are making mistakes. Whereas like the kind of the future generations, the ultimate situation that we're in is that we have problems with AI because they're too smart. So like there is like actually surprisingly little overlap between trying to make kind of current crop of AIs trustworthy and the future kind of like future generations of AI trustworthy. There is like at least one overlap though, which is basically transparency and explainability.
Okay.
It's very plausible that kind of trying to make AIs kind of more understandable to humans will also be very helpful when it comes to kind of trying to steer the course of the future generations of AI.
And so if we talk about this policy making and sort of the regulation and basically how to ensure the trustworthiness, we should really be focusing on explainability and we're good.
Yeah, I mean, no. So like for example, one problem that I think AI safety community is like vigorously debating, like one problem with explainability is that it also makes it easier to make AIs more capable quicker.
Okay.
So like it's a kind of like almost like dual use technology, but still I think it's like one of the areas that we probably can't afford to ignore.
But overall, I mean, so going to the policy side of things here, right? I mean, and you've been advising the European Commission yourself. I mean, what do you think about all those efforts? I mean, do you see like a light in the tunnel in the direction of sort of trustworthiness and actually positive signs?
I think this really depends on your timelines, and the timelines are like very uncertain. Like sort of like one sort of evocative way I have kind of describing it. I became grandfather last year, and I look at this like 1-year-old child and go like, is that the last human generation? And I don't know. It's like certainly possible that this is last, but if it is, we should do like there's like one set of strategies that we should be engaging in, or like if that's not true, we still have several generations left, and there are other strategies. Like when it comes to kind of short-term strategies, I think one thing that I've been doing is just kind of like investing small amounts in all the kind of AI capabilities labs, and then supporting non-profit, using my non-profits, kind of the people who are doing the homework for AI companies, and then just making sure that they talk to each other, and it seems to be going really good.
But then, if you really see that dichotomy between the short-term and the long-term stuff, and even if, let's say, thinking about, let's say, this is the last human generation, right? Probably freaking of a few people out here. then are we addressing the long-term things enough, though?
Oh, no. No.
But what should we be focusing on? Or,
one thing I've been saying is that like we are, if you kind of zoom out from the planet and look at like what is this thing that's happening in this particular corner of the Milky Way, then like the most kind of relevant fact about human species is that we are minimum viable superintelligence creators.
Minimum viable superintelligence creators.
If we were just a little bit dumber, we couldn't do it. But the problem is that it's like almost mathematically like easier to create like a random superintelligence than a superintelligence that we would like. So like the fact that we are minimum viable ones, that kind of puts us in a very kind of precarious position. So yeah, lots of kind of homework to do.
But I mean, so you said that your own short-term strategy in a way has been to, in a way educate those who are working on all these things practically, invest in them, sort of direct them and so forth. What other sort of things you see that can be done? Yeah, practically.
So one, and there are kind of more people at labs and various places who are basically trying to start to engage kind of regulatory people, and also like there is like certainly like no lack of interest in this topic from regulatory bodies. Again, the big problem there is that people are always kind of focused on AI that basically was already invented like 5 years ago, and then just like kind of losing, okay, what can we practically do with this like fake media and stuff like that. But like, I do think that like one thing that like, people in regulatory positions should kind of start to think about sort of the infrastructure, the inputs that are going into AI. Or one way I've been describing this is like if humans go extinct because of AI, and there's like an alien species, by the way, which would be hypothetical because AI would also wipe them out.
Right.
Like alien species coming to kind of write the post-mortem of humanity. In that post-mortem, there probably would be some data center, particularly in some place of the world where something went critical. And so like, can we think ahead? Like, what are the things we should be doing with data centers? My wet dream is basically to have like anti-turbo button. I don't know if you people remember, like in the 90s, we had like big computers that had turbo button. So like if you wanted to kind of like, you had like one button to kind of like make the computer faster or slower. So like if you could have like a kind of using regulatory methods, and this is like very kind of raw thought, but I know that this is possible, could be very useful. Like an anti-turbo button in the world where that kind of like would limit the amount of computational operations per cubic meter per second in data centers of the world. That could be very useful.
So you wouldn't stop it, but slow it enough to catch up in a way?
Yeah, so like if something goes critical, again, like we wouldn't be in a position of this like Strasbourg data centers, like actually we don't know how to turn it off. We should have like ability to do that.
But so, unfortunately, this sort of, even in the mightiest regulator can't really force to build an anti-turbo button, right? So
I think they can. Like,
they can?
I mean, all right. I think China would have no problem with that. So like, in some ways, like I've been saying
unless they don't want to.
I mean, sure. Like, I mean, I don't know how kind of spicy I can be here.
Well, you can be very spicy. It's after lunch, so you have to be.
Like, if you're an AGI, like artificial general intelligence kind of wakes up and then discovers that you're in China, that's a really bad news for the AGI, because like I do think China is like a much better position to control what is happening
but tell
on their territory.
Tell a bit more about that idea. What do you really mean? So why is it a bad idea to wake up there for an AGI?
From an AGI perspective. I mean, it's not like a super big deal for an AGI because it's smart, probably, but it's just like, I think China has like way better control over what's happening on their territory, as kind of demonstrated by the recent kind of tech tensions with kind of tech companies that they have, than US has anything that's happening on their territory. So like, I think, yeah. But I don't want to kind of stress this point. I'm just pointing out that, hey, Chinese are human too, and they have like much better control of what's happening on the territory, which kind of, as a representative of the Homo sapiens species, I'm glad of.
But so fundamentally, I think what you sort of, let's say, what I'm hearing from you is to say that actually for the long-term stuff, it's the control that is the issue. So if we talk about trustworthiness, yes, I mean, there's explainability and traceability. I mean, all sorts of other elements fundamentally to know what's happening in a sort of black box. But fundamentally, for the existential side of things, it's the control.
It's either control or it's a alignment pit.
Okay.
I think it's like very plausible that ultimately, at the limit, we will not be able to control. Like I had many years ago, I had this kind of debate with an AI developer who said that, who's like specifically trying to bring about AGI. And he said, Jaan, what you're doing is completely pointless, because once we have AGI, the world will be completely unpredictable to humans, just like current world is completely unpredictable to rabbits. And I was like, hold on a second, why are you working in a world? Why are you working on a project whose goal is to make the future random? Your goal should be to make the world good, right? The future good.
But so from that point still, so okay, one thing is that, you know, let's figure out a way to do an anti-turbo button. But what else do you see as a realistic space to think about regulation, or how to grasp this control? Or
yeah, I think that's the kind of. I mean, there are now kind of groups in Oxford, for example, GovAI, governance of AI, that are kind of having like way more sophisticated answers to this. But like, yeah, kind of regulating, thinking about the inputs to AI and how can we constrain it is like one kind of fairly obvious thing that I think is doable. It's hard, but I think it's doable.
But then again, at the input side, I mean, the whole policy line seems to be having, you know, trying to get more of it on the ground, right? So also even, you know, Commission President here was saying today that, you know, let's get sort of more sort of, you know, capacity, more infrastructure, more technical components that we need for the sort of digital future to take hold, right? So at the same time, it seems to be that the mainstream line is that we don't limit the infrastructure inputs, we rather sort of want to have more of them.
Yeah, so that's like, I think that's also like kind of main disagreement with Eric Schmidt. I think he's like very keen on the kind of pushing the competition side. I mean, I agree a lot with what he says, but I think this particular thing is different. Like the reason why you engage in arms races is because like other people are doing it. So you're kind of like robbing yourself of a degree of freedom in your decision making. So I think it's important to kind of see like, is that an arms race that we actually want? If you are in the process, like one way of describing AI is that AI is an automated decision maker that is getting more competent by the day, and it's not human. It doesn't care about things that we need for survival. It doesn't care about environment. Like the reason why we send robots to space and radioactive areas is that AI does not care about the environment. So like if we are in a situation where we're going to competitive reasons want to have to delegate as much as possible away, and Eric actually touched on this, like in military situation, that's like very kind of might be like very harsh reality that we need to have to delegate really quickly away to like automated non-caring machines. We might just paint ourselves in a very bad corner. So like one thing to think about is like how can we kind of like slow down the potential arms races when it comes to kind of technology.
But look, I mean, you've been studying humans as well for a lot, right? And you've been involved in this sort of
politics. Making those.
And making quite a few. Then, well, do you see a realistic chance to stop this sort of arms race? Because it's also like seems to be a very natural thing, right? Or
there's actually currently very active discussion happening in AI alignment community is that, okay, let's just sit down and think hard. Can we slow this down?
Okay.
Like for the last 10 years, there has been a sort of like almost a taboo in kind of AI alignment community that we want to be friends with like AI researchers, and they're good people. I know them. So like let's not talk about this like slow down, because that's like that's unrealistic and it's like non-productive. But like now it's okay. If we're really talking about like this being the last 5 years possibly, like let's just think about it. Like, can we slow down these things? Is other like ways that are kind of like productive?
But here again, probably Eric Schmidt might argue with you, saying that look, this sort of community self-regulation. Look at the industries; they have exactly revenue maximization goal. They're going to be out there doing bad stuff. Some of them anyway, right? And it gets sort of out of hand anyways. I mean, what's your take on that? So I mean, can the sort of
I think that's not I think that's not a good argument because like this is not the first moment where humanity kind of faces bad externalities. We don't have like a very good track record. We have like a non-zero track record dealing with externalities. The most famous one is the ozone layer. Like we seem to have fixed it, although it was clear like something that is like against the interests of commercial entities to care about that. So like we're not completely hopeless. Again, we are kind of minimum viable, but there's like still like some thin margin when it comes to steering the future with AI.
Okay, as long as we focus on the right things and right aspects and so forth. But Well, we tend to talk about regulation a lot, and I mean, it's a very governmental thing to do, I guess, or government circle thing to do. But I mean, do you realistically see also that are there other tools that also governments can employ to also affect the community or otherwise?
Yeah, I don't think I know enough about governments to kind of like start prescribing. But it's like, yeah, I think I just like kind of would want people to think kind of more from the first principles rather than looking at the AI that was invented 5 years ago and see like what potential impact could. Like one sort of visual model that I have about what's happening in AI sort of research community or like AI and the world is I call it like drill and the city. So you can imagine like a drilling operation where the kind of drill kind of digs deeper into the ground and then like kind of unearths some materials, which in this case is basically fundamental AI techniques from like convex optimization to deep learning, and the transformers is the latest thing that it unearthed. And then there's like industry above ground. That's a city that takes those results and then kind of packages them into products and services. And humans have like pretty good idea about like how to deal with this regulation of the products and services. Like this is like a normal technology regulation. It is very useful, I agree. And I kind of more power to people who are working on this. But like in my world, like the danger doesn't come from what happens in the city, although it could come from there. But like my main focus is on what's happening on the tip of the drill. Is it going to hit something that is kind of so explosive that it just like blew everything up? The drill, the city, the people in it.
And that means keeping focus on the drilling guys, right? And the drilling teams.
Yeah, drilling guys and more like thinking about kind of more from first principles. Like what are the like laws of physics? What do they limit? Like for example, would be a massive tangent, but like one thing that I've been thinking about is that, and my co-founder at the Cambridge Center, Sir Martin Rees, Lord Martin Rees, he has paper about like you might want to, if you're sufficiently powerful, you might want to stop the universe from expanding, and you can do that. Like you need to pull in the galaxies to have like a 3 times more concentration of matter in the universe. So like this is one thing that would be pretty high on the list of AI that is superhuman, because like those things are just slipping beyond the horizon.
But from that, I mean, something you said I think is really fundamental, that in a way we are trying to deal with the understanding of what AI was 5 years ago, or let's say a few years ago, and it's expanding or developing so fast. So do you see like a way to counter that? Or I mean, you've been trying to bring different communities together. You've been trying to exactly engage with policymakers. I mean, any ideas that say, I mean, how to make them catch up in a way? Because not many of them are physicists like you, right?
Yeah, I'm afraid I don't have like any particular recipes again, other than just like, I'm happy to talk to people, and I know people who have been kind of working on these topics for a long time, and have thoughts. Again, GovAI in Oxford is a good,
I guess exactly
place to look up.
This discussion, even just like here, is one aspect of that. But so, slightly edging back to regulations, and I guess trying to sort of ease into the next panel that follows in a way. A lot of policy focus and political focus is on data and data regulation, right? So, not for the reasons of AI necessarily, but obviously data being, let's say, there's the fuel for AI. So what's your take on that? I mean, especially in the context of everything we've said.
This is like a super fascinating question, actually, and it's like more fascinating now than I thought about it like 5 years ago.
Okay.
Like, I was literally talking about this like, in this like European Commission thing, that like, look, 0 in alpha 0 means 0 data. Like you can have like top level games player that never got any bits of information from human civilization. Like so in that sense, like alpha 0 is like a wonderful.
I think you need to just give one context to the audience. What's alpha 0? I know, but
so alpha 0 is the DeepMind's invention AI that's currently the best player and has been for the last several years. The best player of Go, chess, and shogi. So it's
beating the best of humans.
Yeah, it's beating best of humans, beating the best of other AI programs, and it never used any bits of data from human civilization. So if you're a chess player, you can now play against aliens because like it never interacted with human civilization. So then I was like downplaying the need of data. Now what just happened, again, just illustrating perfectly like how moving target AI is. Currently, the top of the top-of-the-line AIs are called large language models. I mean, I have one in my pocket right now. It's
doing what?
We can ask you the questions if you want. They are basically trained. They seem to be currently data limited. So like how intelligent it can be, it's a surprising fact that they are like that's just like everything that we have on the internet pretty much has been thrown at them. And it looks like they would get even smarter if you would have more data. So like there's more discussion now, like how can we use those to start generating data, like so-called synthetic data, which I'm not very optimistic about.
But I guess in a way you're saying that a lot of, from AI point of view or trustworthiness of AI point of view, a lot of the regulation data misses a point of sorts. I'm afraid to.
So it misses a point about the long-term kind of first principles models perspective. I don't think it misses the point when it comes to just like what's happened in the city, like after the things have been unearthed and productized.
Yeah. Fair enough. But I guess that's I think is also like a segue to say that given all of that and the possible sort of last human generation, like you say, and I mean all the sort of like existential threats out there, do you still see that actually for the value we get from AI, we should still be working on the short-term stuff, even if we slow it down a bit?
I mean, this is a really interesting question actually. Because like at the end of the day, I'm an optimist, but I'm like really weird optimist because like I had this discussion last year with a portfolio company CEO of mine who was like very depressed, saying that look, he's been working on this company and like he now sees it's completely meaningless because like AI is just going to come and kill us. And I was like, okay, let's sit down and do the calculation here. What is the probability that AI is going to kill us? And he was like, I don't know, 99%. I was okay, 99%. How much better you think the world could be? He was like, oh.
Before that?
No, like in this 1% of cases.
Okay.
How much the world could better? He was like, oh, like 1,000,000 times easily. Well, in expectation, the future is going to be 10,000 times better if you have those numbers. So like I do think that we are like living a lottery ticket. The future is probably going to be good in the worlds where we survive. And like our job currently is just to like increase the number of worlds where we survive.
But from this, so to really wrap up and sort of have you perhaps leave the audience with a few sort of takeaways, right? So what would be the 3 sentences that you would really want them to take home with, and especially exactly with the hard job of doing a bit of policy, perhaps?
Yeah, I think I would kind of stress this, think about AI as non-human, increasingly competent, fast decision makers.
So don't underestimate.
That are basically aliens. So we are going to get, in some ways, like aliens among us. We are now getting us. The art community is struggling with aliens, and like I think that's the geopolitical kind of brinkmanship about AI is basically people kind of arguing about like where the alien ship should have to land instead of like cooperating and thinking about how we're going to handle those aliens.
And to the theme of this conference, how optimistic are you about sort of actually sort of the slowing of the arms race and the cooperation happening and starting like that? You sort of answered, but
yeah,
to finish
I'm
on
optimistic in expectation. If we manage to survive, which is a big if in my book, it's going to be really good. I mean, yeah, like I think the art that is being currently generated by AI is like one. I mean, almost every day I just look at it. It's just so wonderful. But the other thing is that I'm kind of pragmatically optimistic. I think it's just very. It would not be good for my work to be pessimistic about our chances. I do think that we can influence our chances.
And basically, like you said, you're a weird optimist, so there's still a bright future to work for.
Yep, indeed.
All right, thank you, Jaan.
Thank you.
That's all.